Today we'll tell you about the time we almost got stuck in the Dominican Republic.
And how we got rescued. Hi everyone, welcome to Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. This is episode 154 and we are showing you some of our favorite things from the Dominican Republic. And today we are going to show you some of the waterfalls that we got to see. And that was one of our favorite things while we were there. And so...
That's not a waterfall.
No, that's not a waterfall. So that was our car. And the first day we went to look for a waterfall, we didn't quite get there, so we have nothing to show for it. We actually got so far as to find this huge mud pit, basically.
Full of animals.
And we said, we're not getting through this one. So we wisely turned around and went back. And I think we just went to the beach for a few minutes instead. Well, the next day, we went to a different waterfall, and we made it across a bridge that was like half in the water, and we made it down some steep hills and up some steep hills and through some water puddles and over some big rocks, and we did everything on our way to get here with this little car. Well, once we got here, if you look down the hill, you see a river down there, and so we decided, okay, we need to stop here because if we go any further, we're not getting to the waterfall and we're not getting out. So we stopped right here. And so that is where our trip began. We then had to walk about a mile to actually get to the waterfall. But it was a nice walk,
yeah.
And as we got closer and closer, we saw the water from the falls coming, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so eventually you hear the sound of the falls, and then we found them. And it was worth the hike.
Yep.
It was really beautiful. And these colors here are what you actually see.
So
this isn't us just adding some editing. This picture is what it really looked like.
Yeah.
Now you get to the bottom of the falls, and here's the view from down there. And Jaden started getting really sad because he wanted to be in the water. He loves to swim. He loves to take baths. He just wants to be in the water. So we finally let him put his feet in, and he loved it.
He's very happy about that.
Yeah.
Life choice.
So there we are, some fun pictures down at the waterfall. And the name of this waterfall is
Cascada Los Bueyes, which we had to look it up, but it means like the cascada is like the waterfall of the oxen. So it must be kind of in farmland or something? I don't know.
I don't know. We walked past some places where they had like horses and stuff, but I don't know what goes on down here, or
yeah, I don't know.
what the history is. But anyway, so then we had to walk all the way back. Also, while we were there was these people that came and they had a picnic. I think they brought pizza and some other
and
things.
Coolers.
They brought their own music, so they were having a little party down there. And they had like this little girl, and so they were pointing at Jaden and Jocelyn. We thought their kid was cute too. So anyway, we get back and we load up in this car and we start driving up, and I'm picking up speed because I know in order to get up this hill I need to go pretty fast. But then we had to go around this one bend, and so I slowed down just a little and I turned and I started going up. And I did start going up. We were stuck because it was just wet enough there that our tires started spinning and we got no traction.
And there were so many rocks, and the rocks would spin out underneath the tires, or you couldn't get enough to grip on. And so I got out of the car, and we got the luggage out of the car, we got the kids out of the car.
Yep, backed up and drove really fast and did it again and did it again, and thankfully didn't get the car stuck on any rocks, but it was close a couple times. We just couldn't get any more traction to get up this thing, and I knew we were close, but every time we started getting any momentum, then it would get to a spot where it would just stop, or we'd lose any traction underneath us, and we'd go right back to where we were. So we started walking up this hill, probably about a third of a mile. It seemed a lot longer because we're we drove down it earlier, and now we're walking and carrying heavy kids.
Uphill.
Yeah. But we found this place, and Alyssa started talking to these guys in Spanish and telling them our problem. And so all of a sudden, all these guys came out, and they started walking down with us so they could help us get our car back up.
I think push it, because they didn't have a vehicle.
Yeah.
And they didn't have another plan.
Meanwhile, as we're making our way back down, our friends from the waterfall started coming up our way in their big vehicles, and obviously no problem getting up. And so they said, is that your car back there? And we said, yeah, that's us. And so they said, why don't you get in? We'll go back down, we'll help you. So they got in with us and gave us a ride, or we got in with them, they gave us a ride down to our car. And then another vehicle came, this gray Toyota or something.
Land Rover thing.
Yeah. And it had a winch on the front. I don't know where this came from, but eventually it showed up. And this guy hooked up onto our car and started pulling us. And from where we are in this picture, that is where we had the car stopped. Where that other vehicle is pulling us, that is about where we needed to get to in order to get enough traction to make it rest of the way up the hill.
Yeah.
So we only had to make it maybe 10 yards, and then we would have been free. But we couldn't, so they came and helped us. And then another guy got in there, and once it was up far enough, he got in, and they started pushing a little, and they said, go, and he went all the way up the hill. And so anyway, then we jumped in their vehicles again, and they gave us a ride back to where the car was stopped, where the guy brought it to. But it was fun. The people were really friendly. Some of them were they're from the Dominican Republic, but they had moved to the U.S., and so they were back for like a family trip, and so we got their contact info, and they didn't charge us anything, which
they were super nice.
Would be unusual for another country, but maybe it's because they were Americans that they understood.
Well, they wanted us to have a good experience. They wanted us to know that Dominicans were helpful and friendly people, and that they had a beautiful island, and they wanted us to have a good time, and they were sorry that this had happened to us.
And they wanted to know how we found this waterfall, because most people don't know this is here. And well, we found it on the internet. And we used Google Maps.
So we told them the other waterfalls we were thinking about, and they were like, oh yeah, these will be fine. You can do these.
Yep. So next time we go back to here, we'll get a different vehicle. And then we'll tell our kids about the times they were stuck with us down here. Yeah. So the next day we went to a much larger waterfall, and as we already mentioned, it was much easier to get to. Most of the way the road was paved, and if it wasn't paved, it was at least level. And so we were able to drive all the way to this one, over an hour drive, but it was also worth it. This one is really tall, and it dropped down into this pool. You could go swimming there if you wanted to. And the name of this waterfall is
Salto de Aguas Blancas, so the white water jump.
Yeah, because a lot of the waterfalls down here people will jump from as well. We didn't do that because that's not what we do. But we got to view it, and that was fun. And then, of course, baby Jaden was really sad all over again because he just wanted to get in the water. So we told him he wouldn't like it, but we let him try it anyway. And as you can see, the water was really cold, and so as soon as his feet went in the water, he pulled them right back out because he realized this was not swimming water.
No. It's really chilly.
There were some brave guys there who were swimming, but we couldn't bring ourselves to do it. But this is one of those waterfalls where you can hike to the top. So we did. We hiked halfway up to a observation deck that they had, and you look down below. That's the pool down there, and really pretty. And then you turn and you look up the falls, and you can see the other half, because from down below what we showed you was only half of the falls. This is the upper half. And you can also go up to an observation deck up there. You can see it here in the top right corner of the picture. So we hiked up there, and now this is the view looking down. So that observation deck there in the middle was the one we took the last picture from. And this is where the source of the water is for the falls. And so this half of the falls you can't see from down below because it's just that tall. And then there's also this great view from the top, so you can see all these farms and such. And it's really cool because as you're driving there, you get to see all this. You get to drive by at the bottom and on the top, and you see all these carrots. Actually, they were harvesting carrots while we were there, and all these other
huge
crops.
Bags of big, huge carrots.
Yeah. So that was the side of the Dominican Republic we didn't get to see. Otherwise, all this farming, except the banana farm that we went to.
Yeah.
But this was different crops. At this falls, there was also this one spot that was really picturesque. These like big concrete steps that covered in moss, and so we just had to get a fun picture there. The next day, or maybe it was a couple days later, we went to the last waterfall, and that one was really easy. It was about a less than 10-minute drive from where we were staying, and
this one was Salto Baguate.
And that one, after you park, you get to walk along this really nice sidewalk all the way to the
Paved
falls.
trail. Super nice.
Yeah. And so that one looks like this. And so you walk down here, and then you can walk through the water. It was like ankle deep in some places, and others you could probably swim in it the closer you got to the falls. And so baby Jaden also loved this one because here we just let him go and walk around and have all the fun he wanted to.
But there's a wonder we did not dress him in his swimming clothes.
Yeah.
And he got thoroughly soaked.
But it was also, like I said, it was so close to where we were staying. We thought, you know what? This is something he doesn't get to do very often, so he can get all wet. We'll go back, we'll change his clothes, and it'll be fine.
And sandy. He played in the sand. He chased little butterflies around. He loved it.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time down there. We also got to have this one to ourselves for a while. And so we took this nice picture. When we left here, on the way up, we started passing like dozens.
Like buses of people.
Maybe 100 people.
It was a lot.
We got to the end, and there were 3 big buses, so there had to have been 100 people that were there.
Yeah.
3 big buses that had parked, and all these people that had come to see the falls, and we were so glad that we left right before they came because it would have been a whole different time.
Yeah.
But as it was, we just got to have some little family time down there. But
Yeah.
so yeah, if you go to the Dominican Republic and you're not stuck in the resorts like a lot of people are, go out, get off the normal path, go into the farmland, see
With a 4x4.
Yes. Unless you're going to see these last 2, then you can get by in our car. But go see some waterfalls because it's really cool, and most tourists are not seeing those. They're at the resorts, they're at the beaches, and this is something you just get to see some nature that is otherwise things you wouldn't see while you're down there.
Yep. Super beautiful. Worth the adventure and the great story.
Yeah. It is a really good story, so we're glad we got to do it, but glad that we got out.
Yes, that was the most important part. Getting out and finding the next place and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, I have some more of our story. So, hopefully you watched the last part of the story because that's really important. But Pasha was at this house with Georgi, and they were kind of recounting their story to the lady of the house and her husband and their kids, and it was getting really late, but they just kept staying and telling their story. Well, the lady of the house grabbed the edge of the table and she leaned forward and she said, "Tell me more about your sister." And her husband was sitting at the other end of the table, and he really in his head was thinking, why is she still talking and wanting to listen to these stories? It's way past everybody's bedtime. She should be getting everybody's beds ready and we should all be going to bed. But she really wanted to hear more of the story. So Pasha told a little bit more. He said, well, the day that my mother died, my sister and I were separated, Shura, and we went to different places. I think we went to do 2 different orphanages, and I told you my story already, how I escaped, but I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she just got sick and died in an orphanage too, or I really don't know. I'm hoping as we continue on our journey that I'll meet somebody who will know something about her, but I really have no idea what happened to her. And with her face really white and with tears streaming down her face, the lady said, Pasha, is it my brother? Is it you? and it was his sister, Shura. They had found her house, kind of seems like on accident, but obviously God was working it together. And she was so excited to see him. He couldn't believe it. This was his sister. He had found her. God had brought them back together. So, of course, they jumped up and gave each other a great big hug. And they realized it had been over 20 years since they had seen each other. That is really crazy long time. And Shura said, "It's me, I'm your sister. I'm so glad to see you. This just makes my heart happy again." She said, "When I saw you guys come into the village, I thought, I feel like I found something that I've lost, but I don't know why. And it was probably because you were my brother and I just didn't even realize it." And it reminded them of the verse from the Bible that all things work together for good to those who are following after God's commandments and God's rules. And they felt like, wow, God has looked out for us and cared for us too. And so the whole family, it's like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, the whole family got down on their knees and they thanked God that he had kept them both safe, that they were both believers. They both had trusted in Jesus Christ, and that they had, that Shura had a great family, and that Pasha had lived through so much life, but that God had taken care of them. And she didn't know what to do first. Like, do I tell you my story? We should probably all go to bed. But they were just all so excited they couldn't believe it. And even her daughter, let's see, what was her name? Alexi. Even when they were praying, she said, "Thank you, God, for bringing Uncle Pasha to us." And she was really excited too. Well, then it was time to hear the story. So Shura wanted to hear all of Pasha's story now. So any of the details that he maybe left out, she wanted to hear all of it, because now it meant even more to her. Now that it was her family, she realized it was her brother. And then she began to tell her part of the story, how she did go to a girls' orphanage, but she suffered a lot in the orphanage too. And as wintertime came, it got colder and colder, and the orphanage didn't even have any heat. So children were getting really, really sick. They were dying. And people from the village started to come to the orphanage and just take some of the children home so they wouldn't freeze to death. And thankfully, Shura was taken by a lady called, who she ended up calling Aunt Dunya. And Aunt Dunya took her home, and she already had children at her house, but she kind of just counted Shura as one of her children. And Shura got to grow up in this family, and this lady was a believer. She believed in Jesus. And so Shura got to go to school. She learned how to read. She learned how to read the New Testament. And she loved learning about the Bible. And she too put her faith and trust in Jesus Christ. And then she was baptized. And then you're going to have to come back next time to find out the rest of Shura's story and see how God works the rest of their story together.
Oh man, we're getting close.
We've almost made it through the whole story. It's been a long one.
It's always exciting though when family gets reunited, especially if you don't expect it to happen. So that's what's happened today.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to tell you about the Flink family in Chile. And so we've talked about them before and their ministry and how they relocated here to
Arica.
Yep, which is on the northernmost point of Chile. It's on the border of Chile and Peru. Actually used to be a Peruvian town, but the Chileans somehow got it from them. And so it's a mixture of cultures. They're much different from what they had down in Santiago. So they have been there now since last year, and they have an updated prayer card picture because their oldest three have gone to Faith Baptist Bible College. So their oldest boy, he graduated last year. Their second boy is graduating this year, this month. And then their daughter, she was a freshman this year at Faith. And so they are actually coming up here for the graduation.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, so now they're just down there with Lucas. Now, I asked him what God has been doing here in their ministry in the last few months. And if you remember from our update before, they came up here, there was no church at all. And so they came up here to start a totally new work, and so they just had to go out and get to know people. And so they've been doing it at the university, in their neighborhood, just around town as they go about their daily lives. They're looking for people to get to know and build relationships with. And he said that the last several months have been exciting as they have started to create a weekly ministry groove and routine. But they have a weekly Sunday service at 11 a.m. and they have a Wednesday night prayer meeting at 7:30 p.m.
Wow, so that means they have enough people to gather. That's cool.
Yep, and we'll see that here. They have been meeting with new contacts and established contacts, and he has been busy studying and preparing for sermons. So this here would be in their house, so that's the group of people that they have right now. I asked him about what Easter is like there, just like I have some of our other missionaries. And he said Holy Week, as they call it down there, tends to be focused on fish, which is what we heard from the Coelhos in São Paulo, down there in South America, but they're in Brazil. He says since the general culture is Catholic there in Chile, the Easter week is full of activity down by the fishing market, as well as special activities and religious parades throughout the city. And Alyssa was in Peru, so a lot of this is probably very similar for all those South American countries down there.
They also do something in October, or for the month of October. Everybody wears purple, and they have all these parades and stuff. I'm not sure why that ties in with it, but there's a big thing, and so you don't wear purple if you're not Catholic.
Okay, interesting. I asked them how we can pray for them for the next few months, and as I mentioned, they are traveling back here for May and June, but they are going to go to their son's graduation at Faith, and then they also have a nephew's wedding up here in Minnesota. While they are up here, this Chilean couple here in the picture, Pablo and Connie, are going to be kind of overseeing the ministry. So they're going to be living in their house and leading the church ministry down there. And cool. They said that is a step of faith for them, for Pablo and Connie, but also for the Flinks, because this is the first time they've ever done this. And here's a picture. He's doing some leading there in one of the services. Their house, when they first moved there last year, this is what the yard looked like. And then this is what it looked like at the end of the year. And this is what it looks like today.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
It's a fast multiplying succulent.
But he sent me that picture, that first picture a while ago, and he said, this is what the work is like here right now, the ministry. And we pray that it'll continue to grow and their ministry, just like these plants, as you've seen, is already growing at a nice pace. And so we praise God for that. And another prayer request, they said that they are looking for a house they can buy. So now that they live there for a while and they've rented this place, they're looking for a place that they can actually have permanently. So you can pray for them, that God would provide that soon. And also, as they're going to be back here for a couple months, pray for Pablo and Connie and the church there, that they would keep growing and maturing in their absence.
Yeah. Make sure you come back next time to hear more about Dominican Republic, I'm guessing.
Yep.
One more week.
Yep. And Alyssa's going to finish up her story, so you need to hear the end of that.
Yep.
And we'll do a review of the missionaries that we've looked at the last few weeks.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.